If the world were like a Sleep Number mattress, everything would adapt for your comfort. Because as your life changes and your body changes, Sleep Number mattresses adapt and shift to give you personalized comfort night after night. And now it's the final days of our Everything's on Sale event. Save up to $1,200 on mattresses. Our Memorial Day event ends Monday. To experience a whole new world of comfort, visit a Sleep Number store or go to sleepnumber.com. Sleep Number, to a good life sleep.
And away we go. Episode 1335 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Thursday, May 28th, 2026. It is day 2 of the first of 3-day batches of OTAs for the Washington Commanders in the NFL's 2026 offseason. Wednesday's day 1 was open to the media and included interior defensive lineman Javon Kinlaw during a post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon using some naughty words to describe the team's revamped defense. Here you go.
We got some motherfuckers now. Excuse my language, but old way he can go. Charles Omenihu can go. Levon can go. Tim Settle, he can go. Who else am I missing? Then we got Wise back. You already know he can go. Got DA coming back. He can go. Jerzon can go. I mean, D-Payne can go. You know, it's going to be exciting, bro. It's going to be super exciting to play with these guys. For sure. A lot of talent, bro. I'm just excited, bro. I'm super excited.
Yeah, Javon Kinlaw, a big fan of what Washington now has on its defense. By the way, did you like him using profanity, then saying, quote, "excuse my language," end quote, and then using a bunch more profanity? That was great. On Friday's show, episode 1336, we'll discuss the merits of what Javon Kinlaw said, and also we'll react to notable comments from cornerback Mikey Sainristil during a post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon. But we, on this episode, have a lot to get to from the head coach Dan Quinn and the QB1 Jayden Daniels. Hello and welcome to this Thursday installment of the Al Galdi podcast, a podcast on which we talk Washington Commanders on every episode, no matter the time of year. Next segment, analysis of day 1 of 2026 Washington Commanders OTAs, including left tackle Laremy Tunsil surprisingly being in attendance, what Dan Quinn is seeing from Jayden Daniels and offensive coordinator David Blough, the notion of Daniels potentially having something to prove in the 2026 season, and Daniels' comments on his good friend and a potential Washington target in San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats, they concluded a 4-2 road trip with a 3-2 loss at the Cleveland Guardians on Wednesday afternoon, denying the Nats a 3-game sweep. But the takeaway here is this road trip. The Nats, in this season number 1 of a restarted rebuild, went 4-2 on a daunting 6-game road trip on which the Nats won 2 out of 3 games at the National League leading Atlanta Braves and won 2 out of 3 games at the American League Central leading Cleveland Guardians, and each loss was a 1-run loss. The O's, they won for the 5th time in 6 games, an 11-2 win over the American League leading Tampa Bay Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Wednesday evening to complete a 3-game sweep in which the O's outscored the Rays 26-10. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. And if you want Apple Podcasts, give the podcast a 5-star rating. I on the podcast will read whatever you write in writing a review of the podcast. And what you write can be a sports take. You don't just have to write about the podcast. From Eric in Norfolk, Virginia on X on VHS tapes, which came up during the opening segment of Wednesday's show, episode 1334. I talked about how I have all of these sports and pro wrestling VHS tapes from back in the day, but I can't bring myself to get rid of them, even though they're now obsolete. Writes Eric, VHS is going to make a comeback. Thank you for that, Eric. Well, never say never, but I'm not sure under what circumstances VHS would make a comeback. I know that records have made somewhat of a comeback, but people who know music will tell you that records actually can provide excellent sound quality. Ain't nobody saying that VHS tapes outdo the picture or audio quality of digital video. But like I said, never say never. Email from Scott Fallon in Alexandria, Virginia on this podcast and the sports room in his home. Right, Scott? Dear Al, I'm a longtime listener and wanted to take a moment to thank you for all that you do. I listen to you every morning while walking my dogs, and your show has become an essential part of my daily routine. Thank you for watching Washington, D.C. area sports so that the rest of us don't have to. Your insight, preparation, and dedication are unmatched, and you consistently keep us informed and entertained. While you may not yet have a press room named after you like Mike Chappell does in Indianapolis, I thought that you'd be pleased to know that I've officially named the sports room in my home in Alexandria, Virginia, in your honor. My sports room features a 75-inch TV, surround sound, and enough Redskins, Capitals, Nationals, and yes, even those damn Washington Wizards/Bullets memorabilia to fill a local sports hall of fame. The room now is officially known as the Al Galdi Sports Room. The room includes a framed Al Galdi above the door. Thank you for everything that you do to keep us informed. You are by far the best in the business, especially when it comes to covering the local Washington sports scene. With great appreciation, Scott Fallon, Alexandria, Virginia. And Scott in his email includes a picture of the logo of this podcast altered to say the Al Galdi Sports Room. Wow. Well, thank you very much for that, Scott. That does sound like a heck of a sports room. My only concern is that when I inevitably get taken down by scandal of some kind, you may have to rename that sports room. But that is some honor. Much appreciated. Hey, please consider subscribing to this podcast. If you're not already doing that, subscribing to the podcast costs nothing. Make sure that you never miss an episode and helps out the podcast a lot. And if you are already subscribing, thank you. Well, 2026 Washington Commanders OTAs have begun. OTAs are organized team activities. No live contact is permitted, but 7-on-7, 9-on-7, and 11-on-11 drills are permitted. The team this week is conducting the first of three-day sessions of OTAs this offseason, Wednesday through Friday, May 27th through the 29th. June 2nd through the 4th, and June 9th through the 11th. And the team is conducting a 3-day mandatory minicamp from June 16th through the 18th. And then after that is the break until training camp. Washington is having the first day of each 3-day batch of OTAs open to the media. So this first OTA day of this offseason, Wednesday, was open to reporters. Head coach Dan Quinn did a pre-practice press conference late Wednesday morning. Here was Quinn during the opening statement of his presser on the goals for OTAs this offseason.
For today, I'm pumped to get rolling with the guys on the field. Spring ball is an important part of our ramp up for training camp. As you can imagine, with 2 new systems, looking for excellent communication, all 3 phases, and working really hard on the specific skills that go into these plays. And that's the movements, that's the skill, that's what you have to go through, over these next few weeks on the play design. So that's what I'm looking for from there. I'm starting to get to know the team and the locker room a lot better, with some new faces, with some veterans and the rookies to add. And so some really talented guys, but I love the locker room and the men that make it up. And I'm looking forward to getting rolling with them kind of as we start this next phase together.
So much changed for Washington since the end of the Commanders' hideous 2025 regular season, 5-12 with a point differential of -95. Washington, during its 2026 offseason, has engaged in a revamping of the coaching staff, including 2 new coordinators. The team on January 10th announced having promoted assistant quarterbacks coach David Blough to offensive coordinator. The team on January 30th announced having hired Minnesota Vikings defensive passing game coordinator / defensive backs coach Durante Jones as defensive coordinator. Washington, during its 2026 offseason, has had 2 notable front office departures. We in late January learned that Director of College Scouting Tim Gribble was leaving to join the Pittsburgh Steelers. He had been with Washington since 2002. And the Tennessee Titans on May 20th announced having hired Washington Senior Vice President of Football Initiatives Dave Gardy as Executive Vice President of Football Operations. He had been with Washington since April 2024. And Washington, during its 2026 offseason, has undergone undergone plenty of change with the roster, especially on defense. So we on Wednesday morning had this exchange with Dan Quinn.
As you're kind of learning this team, so the players are getting to know each other, the newer guys, how much do you pay attention or look out for those interactions between new guys, whether it be rookies or free agents and Commanders vets?
Yeah, I think you have to create space for that to happen. It's not like on a forced, hey, you talk to him to go, but they do happen organically. There's sometimes it's in the meeting room. Where do you sit? It could be out at the workout on the field to go. Afterwards, you see a lot of guys hanging out together, kind of going through things. If you were a young player or a new player, there's a number of people that you'd lean in on this team. Hey, man, you mind going through that? Can we go through it again? When you put in new systems, they're all really on the same page now, so it's not like one person's been in the same system 5 years and say, yeah, I know all that. So having like a collective group share, and that helps because there's not a lot of separation between where the rookies are or a new player is on the knowledge of the system compared to a current Commander veteran.
So, notable additions for Washington on offense this offseason include quarterback Ethan Kaliak-Manis, receivers Antonio Williams, De'Ami Brown, and Van Jefferson, tight end Chiga Okonkwo, running backs Rashad White, Jerome Ford, and Katron Allen, and guard/center Matt Golban. Notable additions for Washington on defense this offseason include interior defensive lineman Tim Settle and DJ Davidson, edge defenders Adafe Owe, Kaylavon Chason, Charles Omenihu, Joshua Josephs, and DJ Johnson, linebackers Sonny Styles and Leo Chanel, cornerbacks Amik Robertson and Akello Witherspoon, and safety Nick Cross. A lot of new players for Washington. We on Wednesday morning had this exchange between Mitch Tischler of Monumental Sports Network and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Dan. In terms of, I guess, kind of reps for the rookies, maybe particularly for Antonio and Sonny, how do you balance getting them work versus having them, quote unquote, earn kind of their role on this team?
You do need both. I'll start probably from the second part of the question, like earning it. And that does come through a little bit of the competition. And so during this time of year, like what are you competing and what does that look like? And so for like in Antonio's spot, it's the route, it's the movements, it's the catching, when he's targeted. He'll work with a number of different groups as we go through the process. As far as Sonny goes, it's different. You're not going to see like, his plays on the ball. But can we see the burst, the movement, and as a linebacker, man, do we want to feel his communication? So during this time of year, everybody gets reps, but they're not all the same. But you'll see guys moving in and out of different groups, over the next few weeks. And Sonny and Antonio, right, they have definitely, earned some space to get more reps.
A lot of excitement for Sonny Styles and Antonio Williams, two guys, of course, taken by Washington in the 2026 NFL Draft. Two guys who profile as players who could/should make instant impacts. As you may have noticed, a lot of rain in the Washington, D.C. area lately. Wednesday was another rainy day, and so Washington's OTA practice on Wednesday took place in the indoor practice facility, The Bubble, at the team facility, what officially is BigBear.ai Performance Center at Commanders Park in Ashburn, Virginia. The practice was at a rapid pace. I was glad to see that. Urgency is good for our team off it having such a bad 2025 regular season. But Commanders insider J.P. Finley of NBC4 Washington, he on Wednesday afternoon in a post on X, quote, real pace to this OTA session, can feel the tempo. Washington trying to maximize reps in 11 versus 11, end quote. OTAs, like the rest of an NFL team's offseason program, with the exception of the mandatory minicamp, are voluntary. The expectation had been that left tackle Laremy Tunsil would not be in attendance for Wednesday's OTA day, as he traditionally does his own thing in off seasons. But guess what? Tunsil was in attendance on Wednesday. Good for him. I would not have had some huge problem had he not been in attendance. He's an elite left tackle. He last season, his first season with Washington, was terrific, but I was rather a guy attend OTAs than not attend OTAs. Really nice to have Laremy Tunsil in attendance. The team overall did appear to have good attendance on Wednesday. We on Wednesday morning had this exchange between ABC 7 sports director Scott Abraham and Dan Quinn.
Hey, DQ, obviously we haven't been on the field yet and we don't know who's here or not, but I assume it's a good turnout and you have the likes of Jayden and Terry. What does that tell you about this is a voluntary phase, right? But they're here putting in the work, getting used to their teammates. How does that set the standard? How does that set kind of the groundwork for the season ahead to have a guy like Jayden, Terry, and go down the line that are here now for voluntary workouts?
Yeah, I think, number one, I've been pleased with the team and their connection that they're building together. And that happens in these times of spring ball and practices to go. And so as they're building that, they're growing a connection. They're growing, that type of brotherhood that you need to play well. And so I think we'll just continue to see that over the course of the spring. I always think of this time of year, man, it's a ramp up. Can you get all the skills, the system, everything in order? When you do get to training camp, man, you can really let it go. And so it's an important phase for that, especially because it's new. But, kind of to the point of people are in different spaces. Not everybody will be going today, but we do have quite a few.
All right. Also in attendance for Washington's OTA day on Wednesday was the WR1, Terry McLaurin. No drama with Terry McLaurin this year off the contract extension saga of last year, a saga that led to him no-showing most, if not all, of the team's offseason program and then holding out at training camp and then holding in at training camp. The QB1, Jayden Daniels, he did a post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon. Here was Daniels on this year having Terry McLaurin at OTAs.
I mean, you love Terry. Like, Terry is a big piece of not just this offense, but the locker room. So, I mean, even to have guys around, LT was here and Terry had those guys around and be able to just build that connection, that chemistry, just with everybody, man, it means a lot.
All right, much more from day one of 2026 Washington Commanders OTAs in moments, but whatever big event that you're planning, a wedding, a party, whatever, consider using a great sponsor of this podcast, cateringbyuptown.com. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. Catering by Uptown is outstanding. It is a family business. It is run by the Pereiras, who are great Washington Commanders fans. Catering by Uptown is committed to meeting your every need with elegance and precision. Catering by Uptown takes care of every detail so that you can enjoy your event. And Catering by Uptown's specialty is weddings. Get excellent service at an affordable price. In fact, if you visit cateringbyuptown.com and click on venues, you could check out Catering by Uptown's premier wedding venues. Visit cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. That's cateringbyuptown.com and make sure that you mention that Al Galdi sent you. So NFL teams are not required to report who does and does not show up for OTAs. Again, they are voluntary. There were Washington players who we did not see practicing on Wednesday, but that doesn't mean that these guys weren't at the team facility. Guys may have been out due to injury. We, of course, have a lot of Washington players coming off injuries sustained during the team's injury-laden 2025 regular season. Among the more serious injuries in terms of those that could linger into training camp, edge defender Dorrance Armstrong suffered a season-ending torn ACL in the 44-22 loss at the Dallas Cowboys on October 19th. Edge defender Dietrich Wise Jr. suffered a season-ending torn quadriceps in the 27-18 loss at the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football on September 11th. Edge defender Javonte Jean-Baptiste suffered a season-ending torn pectoral muscle in the 34-27 loss at the Atlanta Falcons on September 28th. And cornerback Trey Amos suffered a season-ending fractured fibula in the 44-22 loss to the Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium on November 9th. How about some of those scores, by the way, right? I mean, 44-22 loss at the Cowboys, 27-18 loss at the Packers, 34-27 loss at the Falcons, 44-22 loss to the Lions at Northwest Stadium. Again, last season, not good. We on Wednesday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider David Harrison of WUSA9.com and Dan Quinn.
You have some guys coming off injuries in this phase 3, not necessarily specifically today, but like Dorrance and Trey and those guys. What are you kind of looking for from that group?
Yeah, they're kind of in all sorts of spots, really. Some still on their way back and like getting towards the latter parts of their rehab to go into that. Like for an example, DA or Dietrich in that space. So there's guys in different spots, and I think all of it's kind of geared towards camp to see what that would look like. Yeah, I think that'll be fluid, here through the OTAs. But the number one thing is like that they're on the way back and making good strides in that way.
Okay, so not many specifics from Dan Quinn on the notable injury recoveries. So also, Tim Settle was not seen practicing on Wednesday. He's coming off a season-ending foot injury that he suffered this past November while playing for the Houston Texans. But of course, no player's injury situation last regular season was more consequential for Washington than the injury situation of the QB1, Jayden Daniels. He off his all-time great 2024 rookie season, played in just 7 of Washington's 17 games due to getting injured 4 times. Daniels missed 2 games due to a left knee injury that he suffered in the 27-18 loss at the Green Bay Packers on Thursday Night Football on September 11th. Daniels missed 1 game due to a right hamstring injury that he suffered in the 44-22 loss at the Dallas Cowboys on October 19th. Daniels missed 3 games caused by a dislocated left elbow that he suffered in the 38-14 loss to the Seattle Seahawks at Northwest Stadium on Sunday Night Football on November 2nd. And then Daniels re-injured the left elbow in the 31-0 loss at the Minnesota Vikings on December 7th, though he suffered no structural damage. But Dan Quinn, during his day after the game press conference on December 15th, announced that the team was shutting down Daniels for the rest of the season. I cannot spew enough dislike for what happened with Jayden Daniels last season. I so hate that his second NFL season ended up being ruined by injury. I so hope that he this coming season has a monster bounce-back season. We on Wednesday morning had this back and forth between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Dan Quinn.
Dan, what have you seen from Jayden coming back after last year and just the early part of this spring stuff?
I always notice and admire him of just like the work ethic, the coming back to get it right. His mental quickness, John, is always something that just jumps out to me of like learning a system so quickly and fast. And so I think I saw that a few years ago, and I'm feeling those same instincts now as you guys will see at practice, more huddle, and it'll look differently. You'll see him under center more, but you see the same intent, you see the same communication, and I think it's the mental quickness that just he makes things that are difficult look easy, and I know they're not. With some play calls and how he goes about it, but that's one of the things I really respect.
Obviously, it's very early, but what have you seen from him working from under center, and just where's he at in that development?
Yeah, we've done a good bit of it. It's mostly just right now it's been against offense on offense in phase 2, so that's why I think the next few weeks will be important for that as we get started. But they've definitely put in the work together so far. But like most things, we just need reps and time on task at it.
Time on task, a popular phrase of the man who was Washington's offensive coordinator for the last 2 seasons, Cliff Kingsbury, but Washington on January 6th parted with Kingsbury. And so the new offensive coordinator is David Blough, who we know will be having Jayden Daniels operating under center more. Both Dan Quinn and David Blough have been very clear about that. Washington, for the 2025 regular season, had an NFL low 17 under center dropbacks. For comparison's sake, the next lowest total was the Kansas City Chiefs' 45. So Washington had less than half of the next lowest total. Number 1, in case you're curious, was the Los Angeles Rams. They, for the 2025 regular season, had an NFL high 251 under center dropbacks. And isn't it interesting that Cliff Kingsbury now is on the coaching staff of the Rams? He is their assistant head coach, working under head coach and former Washington Redskins offensive coordinator Sean McVay. But you wonder if Kingsbury, in being parted with by Washington and then not getting a head coaching or offensive play caller job, perhaps realized that he needed to modify his ways. And so David Blough now is Washington's offensive coordinator. He is really well regarded. He is just 30, youngest person to be hired as Washington offensive coordinator since the Redskins in January 2014 announced having promoted 28-year-old tight ends coach Sean McVay to offensive coordinator. We on Wednesday morning had this back and forth between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Dan Quinn.
David Blough, just what are your expectations as he starts this process and really begins to install the offense and work the team through all of this?
Yeah, the first part, even take it back a step, Nikki, was to say, can we throw an incredible offseason in the teaching and the installs? I think that's the first part that I saw David and Durante nail over the first couple of weeks. They're going back through kind of like almost like a second time right now on the things they want to emphasize for today's practice. But that's what I've seen from him. I wanted to see big collaboration, their communication. Like our offensive staff's got a lot of experience, be able to use those guys in different ways. And so that's what I've seen so far. I'm pleased with what I've seen, and now it's kind of take the next step. And the execution piece is a big part of it. There's also a part in this time of year and into training camp to a certain degree that you do some exploring. All right, what's best for this player, what's best for this route, and sometimes it takes a few sessions to go through that. Let's hit that again, let's try that route again. And then there's other things that, you know what, let's hold on that. And so they've got a big amount that's installed so far. And so over the next couple weeks here and then through camp, it kind of gets refined, and you really hit on the things that you like. And I remember asking Jayden just the other day, hey, what were the concepts that you liked the most? And he was able to, already, these are the ones that feel the best.
I guess just from your personal experience, going back to maybe your first year as a coordinator, what is that process like of building out the playbook and starting to teach and kind of figuring out how players learn? I mean, what is those few months like? I
think the first part is you go like, what are the families like on a defensive part? These are the 1 highs, these are the 2 highs. On the same thing on the offensive side from a run game, these are the play actions that marry with those. So oftentimes you have too much volume as a coordinator early because, okay, this will be good, and then you kind of start going down to say, all right, what needs the most attention? Are we seeing that? What needs to work? So it's a process to go through, but it's also one that's exciting because now you're starting to understand what unique qualities a player has, and I'm excited for them to see Chig, going against the defense for the first time. What's the best routes for him? How's the best way to utilize him? So there's like small moments like that to go. And same thing on Durante's side now that we've added Sonny, and what unique things does he bring? And obviously Aiyuk, as a DB, and Nick. And so like all those things are kind of fun. And each day you go home, okay, what would that look like differently? And you want to assess how the teaching's going, how the players are learning. And that's the number one job of the coordinator. Like, are they, picking up what we're teaching? And that's probably the hardest part because you've been doing so much of that as a position coach, and now, you want to get it across to the staff to see the teaching going to the players, and that's what you're constantly evaluating.
Going to be so interesting to see what exactly David Blough's offense is and how it does. Is he another Sean McVay? Dan Quinn promoting David Blough to offensive coordinator was a bold move, a move that I do endorse, even though I was a big Cliff Kingsbury fan. But if you were going to part with Kingsbury, promoting Blough is potentially a forward-thinking, smart move. But that's the thing. Will the move prove to be a forward-thinking, smart move? We shall see. We on Wednesday morning had this exchange between David Aldridge of The Athletic and Dan Quinn.
In a perfect marriage of personnel and system and coach, what would this offense look like if it's operating optimally next season?
I think the efficiency, David, is the number one thing, especially on the early downs. If there's a balance in the run-pass ratios, then we're hitting the marks probably at the right strides, and I would say the explosives will be up, knowing we can do that. And so that's the first part. I'm looking for one that has good balance. Like I say, we'll always be 50-50, but if you can find that and attack in that way, that's what success would look like to me early on.
All right, so a new-look offense for Washington in this third NFL season for Jayden Daniels, his age 26 season, the final season before he is contract extension eligible in the 2027 offseason. We on Wednesday morning had this back and forth between Les Carpenter of the Washington Post and Dan Quinn.
Does Jayden, because of what happened last year, does he have something to prove all over again?
That's a question for him, but I would say what his teammates, his coaches know, like, this is a relentless competitor. One of the traits I admire the most about him is like his ability to deliver in clutch moments, and that's something that goes with the work and the preparation to go do that. But I think just his competitive nature almost answers that all the time, that he's always wanting to prove and get to that space.
Is there anything specific you're going to want to see from him over these next few weeks? It's like one thing in particular, or
I think just the urgency with the offense. Like, he's a multiplier. So the quickness in and out of the huddles, the motions, the shifts, the communication, the checks at the line of scrimmage. Those are the things that are there. He's worked incredibly hard on like his skills for the offseason, the throwing. That part I'm certain will come through. So it's more of his ability to communicate with everybody else and really get like all of them on the same page quickly. He's one of the fastest learners, so he'll pick up on things most quickly, and then how can he get that to everyone else in that space?
And there you go, a phrase that pays for our guy Dan Quinn. Quote, in that space, end quote. Dan Quinn loves saying that, doesn't he? In that space.
In that space.
Yes, sir, in that space. Thank you, Dan. But I like Dan Quinn calling Jayden Daniels, quote, a multiplier, end quote. He absolutely is. And you perhaps noticed Dan Quinn mentioning, quote, the motions, the shifts, end quote. I do believe that a desire for more and better pre-snap motion and shifting was part of why the team parted with Cliff Kingsbury. Know this, since Pro Football Focus began tracking pre-snap motion and shifting beginning with the 2014 regular season, usage of pre-snap motion and shifting has increased in every regular season, was at 63.9% for the 2025 regular season. But when it comes to whether Jayden Daniels has something to prove this coming season, we on Wednesday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack and Dan Quinn.
Dan, with regards to Jayden, you said we'll have to ask him about does he have something to prove. Do you notice anything different in terms of his vibe, maturity, anything along the lines of him being the leader and maybe taking even more control, being more vocal or anything along those lines?
I think the vocal part is a little bit been due to the nature of the offense, to where there's more huddle, there's more time, there's more communication in this system, from the quarterback, to all the other guys. So that part, I feel that. I wouldn't say it's more or less, but you'll hear him more, even as you're watching practice from the side, due to the nature of how we're doing things in and out of plays. So I would say that's one different, but from the work ethic and like him getting himself ready to play, that's one of his calling cards. And so he's always one that's way out in front in that space.
Big upcoming season for Jayden Daniels, no doubt. Hopefully he has a big season in this big upcoming season. Daniels, during his post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon, said that he this coming season does have something to prove, but also that is the case for every NFL player. Here was a notable chunk of the Daniels post-practice press conference on Wednesday afternoon.
Do you feel like you have anything to prove this year?
I mean, I don't think in this profession, if you got something to prove, if you don't feel like you don't got something to prove, then you shouldn't be doing it. So that should answer your question, yeah.
How's it working with Blough?
It's fun. I mean, it's been awesome just to see his offensive mind, his creative mind, and juices flowing, and we're building this thing together.
How do you like the offense? I mean, what more can we put in just to adjust to some of the changes?
Yeah, I mean, I love the offense. I mean, I love what Blough's doing. I love how he's creating and designing different things, and then we're going from there. But for me personally, it's just how can I get better as a football player?
How can this offense help you?
I would just say is go out there and play quarterback. I mean, every system I've been in, they asked a lot of me, so I wouldn't say it's different than anything. It's just a different coordinator.
How much were you part of whatever conversations were happening that you've gone from play to day?
I would say I was in the loop, but a lot of stuff is above my pay grade, so that's it.
For you this offseason, in terms of, I know obviously you worked out a lot, but from a mental standpoint, kind of having more time. Do you think about this football differently after last year with all the injuries and what you need to get going?
I would say, it left a bitter taste in my mouth from last year and just how everything played out. So you kind of just go in that off season and just figure out ways to mentally get better physically and emotionally and everything. So I was just going out there and just, kind of just staying out the way and just focus on what I could focus on, control what I could control.
What did you work on? How did you get better physically and mentally?
Lift, film, talk to, when they made a hire, talk to Blough, just had conversations with him, not even just about football, but just about life in general, and then just be around my loved ones and the ones I care about most.
I know this is not the first time you've been at the Senate, right? But was there more emphasis working on the footwork and all that this offseason than in the past?
I always did that. You got to be versatile in whatever you can, and I had to be well-rounded, so ever since I got in the NFL, it's kind of just been the thing. So it's not anything like super new to me.
Yeah, what will Jayden Daniels being under center more mean for him and this offense? I am a big believer in the shotgun and pistol formations, especially for an ultra-mobile quarterback like Jayden Daniels, because those formations present him as a run threat via potential read option on every snap, and thus the defense has to concern itself with potential read option. But there are multiple ways to do good offense in the NFL, and some of the best offenses in the NFL in the 2025 season had their quarterbacks operating from under center a bunch. The Seattle Seahawks, the Los Angeles Rams, the San Francisco 49ers, the New England Patriots, the Buffalo Bills. These were some of the best offenses in the NFL during the 2025 regular season. Each of these offenses utilized under center formations a bunch. Operating under center is not a requirement for offensive success, but also operating under center isn't some antiquated notion. Jayden Daniels, by the way, did look like he had put on some muscle. Daniels this past January 5th, during his season-ending session with reporters, revealed that a goal for him in the 2026 offseason was, quote, rebuilding myself from the ground up, end quote. He on Wednesday afternoon did use a modified version of that phrase. So this was Daniels on Wednesday afternoon on some work that he has done with teammates this offseason.
I mean, outside of here, they came to L.A., for a couple days, and that was pretty much it. But the off season was kind of just me, building myself up from the ground up, building my foundation, and just bring the guys out whenever they're ready. Not really just for football X's and O's, more so just to build on a more personable level and build that connection and chemistry.
Okay, so Jayden Daniels saying that he this offseason has been, quote, building myself up from the ground up, end quote. I still would like to hear more from him on what exactly he means when he talks about this stuff. Quote, rebuilding myself from the ground up, end quote. Or, quote, building myself up from the ground up, end quote. I mean, these are rather dramatic phrases, right? You wonder what exactly he's getting at when he says this stuff. Just something to ponder. And speaking of things to ponder, estranged San Francisco 49ers receiver Brandon Aiyuk. Daniels on Wednesday afternoon did get asked about his buddy Brandon Aiyuk. The expectation does remain that Aiyuk will end up on Washington at some point in some way. The two guys, of course, are good friends. Daniels was Arizona State's QB1 for the 2019 through 2021 seasons. Aiyuk was a receiver for Arizona State for the 2018 and 2019 seasons. We on Wednesday afternoon had this exchange between Ben Standig and Jayden Daniels.
With Brandon, I don't really obviously know what is your sense of you guys are friends? What is your sense of where he is with this football right now?
I don't know. I don't have a sense on it. That is my brother, and we have a personal relationship. But his football future, that's out of my control.
All right, so a nothing answer from Jayden Daniels on the Brandon Aiyuk situation, and that is exactly what Jayden Daniels should have said. But you do have to think that Daniels wants Washington to get Aiyuk. How and when that would/will happen remain in question.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack, but people don't understand when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel, but it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVanish.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com. The Washington Nationals' 4-game winning streak, their longest winning streak in MLB's 2026 regular season so far, is over, but it is impossible to be displeased with the stretch that the Nats just concluded. A 3-2 loss at the Cleveland Guardians on Wednesday afternoon to deny the Nats a 3-game sweep and conclude a 4-2 road trip on which the Nats won 2 out of 3 games at the National League leading Atlanta Braves and won 2 out of 3 games at the American League Central leading Cleveland Guardians, and each loss was a 1-run loss. The Nats now are 29-28, 19-12 on the road versus 10-16 at home. Also, this loss at the Guardians on Wednesday afternoon concluded a stretch of 16 consecutive days with no off day, and the Nats over that stretch went 10-6. The Nats over May 12th through the 27th had no off day and yet went 10-6. Like I said, impossible to be displeased with the stretch that the Nats just concluded. And this is the second consecutive month in which the Nats had a winning record during a lengthy stretch with no off day. The Nats over April 10th through the 26th had a stretch of 17 consecutive days with no off day, and the Nats over that stretch went 9-8. So much to like with this team right now in this season number 1 for the new analytics-based process led by President of Baseball Operations Paul Taboni, General Manager Anirudh Kalambi, and Manager Blake Butera. So far, so very good for the process. Now, a theme for the Nats and them winning the first 2 games of this 3-game series at the Guardians was the Nats doing really well against 2 good Guardians starting pitchers in Tanner Bybee and Joey Cantillo, but the Nats in this 3-2 loss at the Guardians on Wednesday afternoon did struggle against Guardians starting pitcher Gavin Williams. He allowed 1 run in 7 innings. The Nats for this game, just 2 runs, just 5 hits, which were 2 doubles and 3 singles, just 2 walks, just 1 for 8 with runners in scoring position. The offensive bright spots for the Nats were their 2 best players, James Wood and CJ Abrams. James Wood, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, went 1 for 3 with a double, a walk, and a stolen base. Wood in the Nats' 1-run third had a leadoff double to right field despite having been down in the count at 1.12. He for this regular season now has an OPS of 967. And CJ Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, went 2 for 3 with an RBI double, a single, a hit by pitch, and a stolen base. Abrams in the Nats' 1-run third had a 2-out RBI double to right field on an 0-2 pitch for a 1-0 Nats lead. The double per StatCast had a game-best exit velocity of 108.3 miles per hour, and Abrams in the Nats' 1-run ninth had a single to right field off one of the best closers in MLB in the Guardians' Cade Smith, and Abrams had a steal of second base. Abrams is so locked in right now. He, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 937. And how about this? James Wood and C.J. Abrams for this regular season, as of games through Tuesday, were numbers 1 and 2, respectively, in MLB in offensive wins above replacement per Baseball Reference. Wood, 2.8, Abrams, 2.7. Think about that. The Nats for this regular season, as of games through Tuesday, had the 2 most valuable players in MLB in terms of offense. Just outstanding. The Nats in this 3-2 loss at the Guardians on Wednesday afternoon used an opener. He was relief pitcher P.J. Poulin. He tossed a scoreless and hitless bottom of the first. He issued a 1-out 5-pitch walk of Jose Ramirez, but then picked off Ramirez at first base for the second out. Starting pitcher Miles Michaelis came into the game as the Nats bulk pitcher. He officially allowed 2 runs, both of which were unearned in 3 2/3 innings. He put a lot of guys on base, but ultimately did not allow any earned runs. He tossed a scoreless bottom of the second despite giving up 2 singles. Tossed a scoreless bottom of the third despite giving up a 1-out double. Tossed a scoreless bottom of the fourth despite giving up a 2-out single. But Michaelis in the Guardians' 3-run fifth was charged with 2 unearned runs as third baseman Curtis Mead committed a fielding error on a leadoff hot shot grounder by Austin Hedges, and Michaelis gave up a 1-out double by Travis Bazzana to the right center field gap on a play on which center fielder Jacob Young failed in an attempt at a diving forward catch. Miles Michaelis through April had an ERA of 8.23 and a whip of 1.72 over 7 games, including 4 starts in this regular season. But he, in this month of May, prior to Wednesday, had been doing well. 4 games, including 2 starts, ERA of 3.26, whip of 0.93. But his outing on Wednesday afternoon did end up being a mixed bag. I do, though, want to credit P.J. Poulin, who continues to do well as an opener. Poulin in this regular season as an opener, 7 starts, ERA of 1.93, whip of 1.07. He has been effective in that role, although the Nats on Wednesday afternoon, shortly after the end of the game, did announce having optioned Poulin to AAA Rochester, as we have seen Paul Taboni make a ton of roster moves regarding relief pitchers. And the Nats in this 3-2 loss at the Guardians on Wednesday afternoon used 4 pitchers beyond opener P.J. Poulin and bulkman Miles Michaelis. So Richard Lovelady officially allowed 1 run in a third of an inning. He and the Guardians' 3-run fifth faced 5 batters but got just 1 out as he gave up 3 consecutive 2-out singles and then issued a 2-out 4-pitch walk. Orlando Revolta tossed a scoreless bottom of the 6th despite giving up a wet-out double. Clayton Beater tossed a scoreless bottom of the 7th despite giving up a leadoff single and then issuing a walk. And Gus Varland tossed a perfect bottom of the 8th. The 6 Nats pitchers used in this game combined to allow 3 runs, just 1 earned in 8 innings, despite giving up 10 hits and issuing 3 walks. So the Guardians' run total of 3 could have been a lot higher. Here was Nats manager Blake Butera during his postgame session with reporters on Wednesday afternoon, and then you'll hear a follow-up exchange.
Yeah, I really wish we came away with a win today, of course. But overall, going on the road to play Atlanta and Cleveland, 2 teams that are doing what they've done this year, to come out at 4-2, and right there in that game as well, and right there in that first game in Atlanta too, I thought we had chances to win all 6, it seemed like. The way we're playing right now, the way we're pitching it, our at-bats, I know we didn't score a ton of runs today, but obviously when you're facing an arm like Gavin Williams and you're facing the bullpen like that, happy with how we played.
What does it do for the confidence of the group just matching up against 2 teams leading their division? And like you mentioned, even in the losses, you're right there with them and beating them, more times than not.
Yeah, these guys just keep believing. They're starting to figure out that we have some good players in this team, and they believe in one another. They believe in their teammates. At the end of the day, look, when we can go out and play the way we have these last 6 games on the road and in tough places to play, have to feel good about it.
Yes, you do. No game for the Nats on Thursday. Next up for them is a 6-game homestand beginning with a 3-game series against the San Diego Padres at Nationals Park. The Nats have listed just 1 probable starting pitcher for the series, Andrew Alvarez, for Game 1 on Friday evening at 6:45. Game 2 Saturday afternoon at 4:05. Game 3 Sunday afternoon at 1:35. Go figure, the Baltimore Orioles. They last week, May 18th through the 20th, got swept in a 3-game series at the Tampa Bay Rays by a combined score of 25-10. But the O's this week, May 25th through the 27th, authored a 3-game sweep of the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards by a combined score of 26-10. An 11-2 win over the Rays on Wednesday evening to complete the sweep. The O's now have won 5 of their last 6 games and now are 26-30 in MLB's 2026 regular season, in which the Rays are an American League best 34-19. The O's just swept the best team in the American League. A dominant offensive performance by the O's on Wednesday evening. 11 runs, 16 hits, which were 3 home runs, 4 doubles, and 9 singles, 2 walks, 4 for 14 with runners in scoring position. The 3 biggest individual standouts were Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, and Blaze Alexander. Gunnar Henderson hit 2 home runs. He is the Orioles starting shortstop and number 2 batter, went 2 for 4 with a 2-run homer and a solo homer. Henderson in the Orioles' 5-run first had a 2-run homer to right field for a 2-0 Orioles lead. Henderson in the Orioles' 1-run sixth had a leadoff homer to right field for a 9-1 Orioles lead. The homer went a projected 419 feet per StatCast. The O's so need Gunnar Henderson to be the MVP caliber player he can be. He, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 714. Adley Rutschman, he is the Orioles starting catcher and number 3 batter, went 3 for 4 with 2 doubles, a single, and a walk. He continues to be so good. Rutschman, for this regular season, now has an OPS of 840. And how about Blaze Alexander? He had 6 RBI. He is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 8 batter, went 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer, a 2-run double, and a 2-run single. Blaze Alexander for this regular season has an OPS of just 646, but he for this month of May has an OPS of 855. The O's this past February 5th announced having traded relief pitcher Cade Stroud, pitching prospect Wellington Aracena, and infield prospect Jose Mejia to the Arizona Diamondbacks for third baseman / second baseman / outfielder Blaze Alexander. He in this regular season has played quite a bit because of all of the injuries for the O's. Alexander, like I said, overall not supremely productive, but he's having a heck of a month of May. And he did have a good season last season. Alexander in MLB's 2025 regular season accumulated 1.7 wins above replacement per Baseball Reference over just 74 games for the Diamondbacks. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 11-2 win over the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Wednesday evening was Trey Gibson. The O's on Wednesday afternoon announced having recalled Gibson from AAA Norfolk and announced having option relief pitcher Nick Rickey to AAA Norfolk. This off on Tuesday afternoon, having announced having recalled Rickey from AAA Norfolk and having announced having designated relief pitcher Dietrich Enns for assignment. There has been a lot to keep track of with these Orioles roster moves regarding the pitching staff, but Gibson on Wednesday evening, 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. Now, his peripherals were not great. He gave up 6 hits, all of which were singles, but he issued 4 walks and a wild pitch. He recorded just 1 strikeout through 100 pitches, 57 strikes, 43 balls, but 1 run in 5 2/3 innings. You absolutely take that. Really good starting pitching for the O's in this series. Kyle Bradish in the 9-7 13-inning win over the Rays on Monday afternoon, 1 run in 6 innings. Shane Baz in the 6-1 win over the Rays on Tuesday evening, 1 run in 7 innings with 9 strikeouts. And now we have what we had with Trey Gibson on Wednesday evening, and the Orioles relief pitching in this 11-2 win over the Rays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards on Wednesday evening was good, although a key reliever may now be injured. 4 Orioles relievers combined to allow 1 run in 3 1/3 innings. Keegan Aiken tossed 1 1/3 scoreless innings. Yennier Cano, he officially allowed 1 run without recording an out. He faced 3 batters but got no outs. He began what ended up being a 1-run 8th for the Rays by allowing 3 consecutive singles and then got pulled from the game due to right hamstring discomfort, so we'll see what happens with him, but he has been one of the Orioles' best relievers in this regular season, and knowing the Orioles' horrendous injury luck for 3 consecutive seasons now, it's hard to be super optimistic about Cano, but we'll see. Andrew Kittredge, he officially tossed a scoreless and hitless inning. He came into the game in the top of the 8th with the bases loaded, no outs, and the O's up 11-1. He did complete the issuing of a bases-loaded walk that got charged to Cano, but Kittredge then recorded 3 consecutive swinging strikeouts, and Anthony Nunez tossed a perfect top of the 9th. What a win for the O's. What a sweep for the O's. We are 56 games into the team's 162-game regular season. The 26-30 record is really disappointing, no doubt, but this sweep of the American League leading Rays does show you that there still is reason for hope with the O's. Next up for the O's is a 4-game series against the Toronto Blue Jays at Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Game 1, Thursday evening at 6:35. The O's have listed Chris Bassett as their probable starting pitcher for the game. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Friday's show, episode 1336. We'll have much more on the Washington Commanders. Also on Friday's show, I'll talk Baltimore Orioles. The O's are home to the Toronto Blue Jays Thursday evening at 6:35 for Game 1 of a 4-game series. Have a great rest of your Thursday, and I'll talk to you on Friday.
In that space.